Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Education Committee meeting for November 9th, 2021. Our first task is the approval of the minutes. Recommended action, approval of the October 12th, 2021 Education Committee meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
And yes. I see this evening that we have a presentation on data and MTSS with Mr. Pallaya and Ms. Jones. Thank you. Going to come up? Oh, sorry, I did not see Ms. Snyder over there.
Good evening, Board of School Directors, Mr. Hanna, and community. Thanks for this opportunity to share some updates with our MTSS process and the data that we have collected from PSSAs and Keystones last year and the first round of benchmarks that have been administered this year. So during the 2019-2020 school year, PSSA and Keystone assessments were not administered, and our most up-to-date information we have for Keystone and PSSA assessments are from last school year. You will see as we progress through this presentation, the participation was very low for both assessments. It is also important to note that as a district since about 2015, there was limited local data collected through diagnostic or benchmark testing. As we progress through the collected Acadians, NWEA map, PSSA, and Keystone data, it's important to remember we are coming out of a pandemic and student learning loss has never been greater. Although the scores we will view are not reflective of where we want our students academically, we have already started to implement the MTSS process and supports to provide instruction that will target student needs. Having said that, I want to make sure I thank the teachers and administrators who have been working to implement the MTSS process. Prior to the pandemic, our teaching staff and principals recognized the need to provide interventions and supports targeting student deficits. The implementation of benchmark assessments, interventions, and targeted instruction will assist them in their goal of improving student achievement. Finally, just a special thanks to Ms. Jones, Ms. Mancinelli, and Mrs. Messenger, who have been working behind the scenes this year to drive this initiative. Although we used data in the past to drive instruction, it hasn't been done this way in many years. This is change for all staff members involved, and we know change can often be difficult. The district and community should be, as well as I, extremely proud of our teachers and administrators who have embraced this much-needed change. This slide shows the PSSA ELA scores for grades 3, 4, and 5. Percentages are based on the total number of students who participated in the testing. As I said, attendance was low as a result of the pandemic. Some students chose to remain virtual and did not come in for the testing, and some parents elected to opt their students out of testing and didn't send them in. As you can see in this slide, as I said, the scores are not where we want them to be. And you can see the total number of students are the number of students that we have in those grade levels, and the total tested students reflects who took the test. So that you can see there's a large number in each grade level of students that didn't even take the test. Give me a minute to digest that. On this slide, you'll see the ELA scores for grades 6 through 8. There's an average of 70% of students in grades 3 to 8 from both slides that scored basic or below basic in the ELA PSSAs. It's 70%. Moving into our math PSSA data from last year. You can see again, this slide shows the PSSA math scores for grades 3 through 5. Total percentage that are proficient or advanced are extremely low for each of those grade levels. This slide shows the math scores for grades 6 through 8, and there's an average of 86% of the students in grades 3 to 8 that scored basic or below basic in math PSSAs. 86%. As you know, science is a tested area for grades 4 and 8. You can see in 4th grade we had 54% of our students that were proficient or advanced, and in 8th grade, 27%. Slide 7, this slide represents the scores for students that participated in the Algebra, Biology, and Literature Keystone assessments. As you can see, overall PSSA and Keystone scores are low, and this could be for various reasons. Most recently, the pandemic, obviously. There was a difference in learning environment for a good portion of the year where students were learning from home. The testing environment also is not what we traditionally would have for our students. The window was about the same, but due to the pandemic and the number of students, we wanted to get through the testing. We did not require extended time for all of our students like we would if they requested it. There's trauma, stress, anxiety, which could have caused students to not put as much effort into the test last year. There's a variety of reasons. We'll be using state standardized testing data along with other data points that you'll see in a minute to begin planning for instruction interventions for individual and groups of students to have small group instruction and also to guide our curriculum writing. So we started collecting our benchmark data through Acadians and NWEA MAP. I'm going to let Mrs. Jones just briefly tell us a little bit about the process of collecting the data for Acadians and who did the assessments.
Good evening. Universal screening is the first step in the MTSS process. It really helps us to understand the strengths and the weaknesses that our students have in relation to their reading and math skills. At the beginning of the year, we chose to use a SWAT team approach to get this testing completed. And what that means is that we used our reading specialists to administer these assessments in grades K through 7. They spent anywhere from 2 to 4 days in each building testing all of our students. And during the month of September, they tested over 3,000 students, much of that testing being done on an individual basis. And so I really just want to thank them personally for their hard work during the month of September, as well as all of the other work that they are doing to move these initiatives forward. They are working alongside of their TAC specialist and their principals and myself, Ms. Mancinelli and Ms. Messenger, to roll out MTSS, to analyze the data, to group students, and over the next couple weeks, they will begin working directly with our students that need the most intensive level of support that are not already receiving special education services. And I do believe that is a step in the right direction. And I think that this group of women deserve a huge thank you from all of us and recognition for the efforts that they've been putting in. In addition to that, they are completing an intensive training in the science of reading, known as LETRS, Language Essentials for Teachers of Reading and Spelling. And this is really the gold standard in science of reading training. And we are hoping to actually train them as facilitators so that we can start training our teachers on a large scale in evidence-based literacy practices. And much of that training is being completed outside of their workday. And so, I'm just so grateful for their willingness to, help us be able to move these initiatives forward and the hard work that they're doing to be able to support our students in the best way possible.
Is this a good time for a question?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Okay. So this is the data from the beginning of the year for kindergarten, first and second, correct?
Correct.
And I think I heard you say, because it's really hard with masks.
It is.
And this is pretty good, because it's the beginning of November. So you did this testing, and then you've looked at the data, and you're starting to group the kids so you can tailor the interventions and the learning based upon what the kids need. Is that kind of where you are right now in the beginning of November?
Correct. And when we get towards the end of this presentation, we'll talk a little bit more about the MTSS process, but everything you've just described is where we're at right now. Data meetings have already started to be held in each of the buildings. I've had an opportunity to sit on some. I know Mr. Hanna has gone out to have an opportunity to sit on some. The great thing that I saw at a meeting at King's East Battlefield was we had started to look at the initial kindergarten data, and the teachers had talked about their grouping, and they actually were concerned because they felt some of their students already need to be retested because they had made significant growth and wouldn't have fallen into the tier 2 category. So we'll get to that in a little bit, but you're spot on, Ms. Mills, for that,
Okay.
that question.
And then, because it got a little muddled, so the training that the reading specialists are doing that's so important, could you say that again slower?
It's called LETTERS,
Letters.
Language Essentials for Teachers of Reading and Spelling, and it really is the gold standard in science of reading training. It's a program agnostic training, and what that means is that this is not a training. It's all about evidence-based practices, and regardless of what program we use, it's really used to enhance whatever program we're utilizing with our students.
Thanks.
Absolutely. I also want to say, too, we have a small cohort of special education teachers that are also going through this training, and our hope is to add additional cohorts over the next several years until our own reading specialists can begin to facilitate the training internally.
So the next couple slides, you're going to see some Acadians reading scores, and this provides the best overall estimate of students' early literacy skills and or reading proficiency. Reading composite scores are what we're going to be looking at, and if a student earns a reading composite score that is at or above the benchmark goal, the odds are the students are in the student's favor of reaching later important reading outcomes. The Acadians data is reflecting a large number of students that fall below and well below benchmark, and this means students falling in the below benchmark category could need core instruction coupled with strategic support targeted towards their individual needs to meet subsequent early literacy reading goals. And for some students whose scores are close to the benchmark goal, effective core instruction may be sufficient for those students, but if they're close to the cutoff point, they may require more intensive support. Students in the well below category will need intensive support in addition to effective core instruction. These students may also need support on prerequisite skills, which means they may need some reinforcement on skills that should have been mastered in the previous year or previous years, depending upon the grade level and how far below the benchmark skill they are. So again, we're still looking at Acadians data, and this is for 3rd grade through 5th grade. So you can see an average of 65% of the students in grades 3 through 6 will need strategic or intensive supports and interventions in literacy. Slide 11 begins our map growth data. So you can see an average of 50% of our students in grades 7 through 11 scored in the low or low average range based on the national norms for students assessed during the fall using the map growth assessment for language arts. And data for math is pretty similar. It's 51% of our students that are in the low or low average range. So as we had mentioned, we're beginning the process of implementing the MTSS. We have an MTSS toolkit and procedures that have been established. Our data teams, well, we started collecting our benchmark obviously in August through September. Initial MTSS meetings were held to begin analyzing data and grouping students. Again, from the ones that I've participated in, and I know I've spoken to some of our TAC people from the IU also, the teachers have done an excellent job in being active in these meetings and also wanting to make sure that they're targeting students in the correct groups and targeting the needs and deficits of these students. So in October, our curriculum team and CCIU TAC team met with teachers and administrators, which is obviously going to continue throughout the course of the school year. And then, just so everyone on the board knows, we have 3 data meetings a month. Teachers have been coming to 2, and there's a third one if they choose to come to. They're more than welcome to join us to continue looking at data. We're talking about tiered intervention groups, and this is going to begin in November. Our mid-year benchmark assessment will be given in January through February. We'd like to come back sometime, probably early March, to give you an update on our mid-year benchmark assessments. End of the year benchmark assessments will be done by June by Dismissal. We'll come back in July and give you an update on our end of the year benchmark assessments. And then obviously we greatly appreciate the fact that the board gave us the half a school days so we can use them for data analysis and other professional development opportunities. Questions?
Any questions? We shouldn't be surprised that the scores were low after the pandemic and all of that. So there was a great deal of learning loss. So I'm happy to see that we're putting in place what we need to do to help the young people catch up with their reading and their math. So thank you for this presentation and good luck with the process. It sounds like you have it rolling along. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Harlan, did you have a question? Your light's on.
No. Good.
Right, Becky.
All right.
I just want to, on behalf of the board and the community, I want to thank Mr. Pallaya and his team for putting this together. This is a big part of the ESSERS investment that we've been making over the last number of years. And I think, Ms. Mills, to your point, it didn't get like this quickly, and the fix is one that we're going to have to be very, very clear about, patient but urgent in terms of the work. And Mr. Pallaya is right. I had the pleasure of sitting in on the Kings Highway meeting, and of course it was the day after Halloween, so they had the best candy. But I will say that to see the team sort of speak about young people and how to match them and things of this sort, you know, was something that just warmed my heart, because I know that we're sort of looking to meet where students are. And so I want to thank, you know, Ms. Jones and the team for what they're doing across the district. Mr. Pallaya, once again, thank you for your leadership in this work.
So I had one last question. So the map test was done online, correct? So you were able to work out all the computer stuff and had enough machines so the kids could be tested, and you had the data that you needed for the teachers. Good.
That we had to work out in the beginning, but we should be all right.
Okay, yeah, it was rough in the beginning for that too. Okay, good, thank you. Thank you all. Okay, next agenda item. Enrollment Agreement, Valley Forge Education Services. Recommended action, that the Board of School Directors approve the Student Enrollment Agreement with Valley Forge Educational Services for the Vanguard School for the 2021-2022 school year for students 100174990, 10007726, 10005391, 10016294, 10008084, 10006830, 10015530, 10011125, 10005191, 10002057, 10002057, 10005113 and 10003030 as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. B, Music Theater International Contract, Scott. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the contract with Music Theater International for the Scott 6th Grade Center Spring Musical in the amount of $735 as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I'm going to take a water break here. It just sounds worse than it is. C, 2022-2023 school year calendar. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the first draft of the 2022-2023 school year calendar as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. D, course selection guide for 6th grade. That the Board of School Directors approve the 6th grade course selection guide for the 2022-2023 school year as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. E, course selection guide 7th grade. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the 7th grade course selection guide for the 2022-2023 school year as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. Course selection guide 8th grade. That the Board of School Directors approve the 8th grade course selection guide for the 2022-2023 school year as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. G, course selection guide 9th to 12th grade. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the 9th to 12th grade course selection guide for the 2022-2023 school year as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. H, student-teacher placement change. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the student-teacher placement change as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes.
There is a comment here. It says this student originally approved to complete the second half of his practicum with Audra Ritter at North Brandywine, but wanted to continue his work with students at Count Elementary and received consent from Westchester University to make this request. Item I. And yes for me too. I, student teaching placements. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the student teacher placements as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. J, agreement for an independent educational evaluation. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the independent educational evaluation for student 100006234, not to exceed $4,600. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. K, proposed adjudication student 100111199. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the proposed student adjudication for student 1001199. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. L, proposed adjudication, student 50001113. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the proposed student adjudication for student 50001113. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Call for the vote,
Yes.
Yes.
and yes. M, proposed adjudication for students 10008783 and 10008787. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the proposed student adjudications for students 10008783 and 10008787. Have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. The last item we have is our informational items. It's posted in Board Docs, the enrollment reports as of October 31st, 2021. Is there any old business? Any new business? Was there public comment for this committee? Thank you. Gloria Shannon Bailey.
Good evening. First, I'd like to remind the board that my goal here is to try to get information from the public. I know that transparency and accurate information is important, and as a taxpayer, I just wanted to remind you all of that. The second thing is there are several requests that I have made at the board meetings, and I've requested information, and there has been no follow-up or no follow-through. So I'm not sure if you all have another approach, but is there another way that I can get information that I'm asking for?
Can I ask a question? Was one of them around Hello Sign?
No, Hello
That's
Sign
been
was
addressed.
addressed.
That's been
Hello Sign
addressed.
was addressed.
Okay, wanted to be sure, because that was one that was outstanding previously.
It was
Okay.
addressed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Got it.
One example is I had asked about student-teacher interns and how many of those were teachers of color. I talked about the importance of having teachers and at least teachers and staff that look like our students. So at that particular board meeting, there were a series of student-teacher, I think, assignments or internships. And so that's another example. So I would, if you would please let me know if you're not going to get the information as well.
So, Mr. Hanna, could you
I'm sorry.
could you assign somebody
Yeah, we will
to
absolutely.
talk to her?
Ms. Handel and I will make sure that we get you that data.
Okay. And then for the,
That we can provide, and we don't have any choice on the student teachers that make requests to teach with us. So that's not information that we can provide to you. It's demographic, personal information, just like we don't for our students.
Thank you. Shannon Bailey will follow up with that so you're aware.
okay, thank you. The student adjudications, I'd like to know whether or not these students are referred to the program, the 19320 program that was announced at a couple of meetings ago. I think it involved community members and various organizations to address students who are having some challenges.
The PACT 19320 program is a program where we've got multiple agencies coming together to engage within the city of Coatesville to ensure that there's a positive relationship between law enforcement and the community. And so one of the strategies there was to do roundtable conversations with students. And one of the strategies there was to identify students who have historically struggled in schools. And I know that the team engaged in that kind of work. And I do know that the team wished that we had had more students who, sorry, those are my 3 minutes, not yours. And so I know that the committee wanted to sort of do a better job to make outreach to that type of student, so the committee is still having that conversation.
Okay, so then, just for clarity, then, these adjudications are or are not connected to
It may not be those students who've
Okay.
been adjudicated, but it'll be students who have historically struggled in school,
Okay.
right, so that we can ensure that we get their voices as well. It would be great if we could get students who've been adjudicated so we can get their experience side from it, but that's something that the committee's been been trying to do and did not get the first time. Want to sort of do that as the work continues.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Megan Murray.
Hi, I just had a quick question regarding the contract for Music Theater International for Scott. It is on for the committee, so thank you very much. I'm speaking as the assistant director. We are in desperate need of getting our music, our scripts, all of our supplies that we need to really be prepared to finally, for the first time in the Scott Sixth Grade Center history, have a show. Because of COVID, we did not have that the last 2 years. I did notice it is not on the special board meeting agenda tonight. I didn't know if it could still be added. It does, I believe, have to go all the way through all of the steps before we can actually make those purchases and get the supplies we need for the show. Thank you.
Hold on, Ms. Murray. Mr. Hanna, help me here. Is there a reason why we could not approve that tonight?
Yeah, and the financial amount, I believe it was $700 and some dollars. That comes directly from the drama account. That is not district funds.
So here's what I would like to do. If there's no reason why we can't move that forward, under additions and deletions, we can add that. So, Ms. Mills, if I, when I asked for additions, if you could reread that motion, and then we'll add it, and then I'll pull it from consent agenda at the end of your committee section. Is that okay?
Sure.
Does that please the board? Is that okay?
Thank you very much.
I know what
appreciate
I
it.
know what it's like to be up against the timeline.
And Alex has been asking me to make
Well,
sure.
I was just going to say, is Mr. D still involved?
He is. He retired from teaching, but thankfully not from drama. I'm holding on to him as long as I can, but I got to keep him happy in the meantime, which means we need scripts.
Okay, I can't speak for my colleagues, but we'll at least put it on the agenda and have the vote.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next meeting is Tuesday, January 11th, 2022. I adjourn the Education Committee meeting at 6:32.
Thank you, Ms. Mills. Good evening, Coatesville School District. I'd like to call to order the November 9, 2021 Finance Committee meeting. First order of business is the approval of the minutes. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the October 12, 2021 Finance Committee meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
Motion?
Second.
And we'll call for a vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. We'll start off this evening with a budget update from Ms. Diefendorfer.
Thank you.
Good evening, School Board of Directors, community members. Tonight, we want to give you our initial budget planning presentation as we begin the budgeting for the 22-23 school year. This timeline before you lays out key dates where important decisions will need to be made with regard to property tax increases. Starting this month, there will be discussions regarding the opt-out resolution to stay within the Act 1 index applicable to the school district, which is 4.4%, or use of the Act 1 process and possible real estate tax referendum exceptions. Then in January, the board will either adopt an opt-out resolution to stay within the Act 1 index or make the preliminary budget available for public inspection. In February, we will bring a preliminary draft of the budget if the opt-out is selected. In April, the board will approve a proposed final budget if the opt-out is selected. We are required to have our final budget in place by June. This slide lays out our roadmap for developing our budget. The first step is to project the number of students. Step 2, we will determine personnel requirements. Third step will be to estimate expenditures, followed by the fourth step, which is to estimate revenues. Step 5 will be balancing the budget. Ms. Diefendorfer.
Thank you, Mr. Hanna. As Mr. Hanna mentioned, the first step in our budget roadmap is to project number of students for 2022-2023. This allows us to establish the basic information on the anticipated level of operations within the school district. This chart depicts the historical enrollment of the Coatesville schools and the projected enrollment for the next 5 years. We use the cohort survival method in calculating these numbers. How that works is we take the same data, October 1st of each year, and we look at how students advance or progress through our systems, K to 1, 1 to 2, and so on. This method captures changes that occur between those grades and student enrollment. In 15-16, we had 6,785 students in our district, and as of October 1st, we have 5,455 students. This is up from last year by 120 students. Even with this increase in enrollments, we are projecting that our numbers will decrease over the next 5 years based on our calculation from historical data. This chart combines the Coatesville Public School projections with the charter school projections of Coatesville students using the same methodology. We did see a reduction in the number of charter school students this year compared to last by 60 students. Again, even with this change in enrollments, we are projecting to see increases in our charter school numbers over the next 5 years based on our calculations from our historical data. Our next step will be to estimate the number of personnel required for 2020-2023. This includes instructional staff, instructional support staff, school-level administrative, clerical, custodial, and food service staff, and district-level administrative, supervisory, and clerical staff. Next, we'll need to estimate the expenditures for 2020-2023. This includes salaries and benefits, debt and legal, support of other schools, transportation, special education, other spending, which is our facilities, technologies, buildings, athletics, and all others. Now, we are hearing that we should anticipate significant increases in our healthcare costs, which have been flat as a result of COVID. These increases could come into play as early as 2023, 2024, so we want to keep an eye on these increased costs. And we have talked about our debt services previously, and we'll revisit on our next slide. This is a slide that we have shared previously. As we have mentioned on numerous occasions, our 2022-2023 budget brings back the debt we deferred in 2020. You can see here that we are going from a $7.5 million debt payment to a $16.8 million debt payment, which is an additional $9.3 million that we need to budget for. Please keep in mind, this $9.3 is only the increase in debt. It does not take into consideration any increases in salaries or benefits, charter school costs, regular or special ed costs, or contract escalation costs over prior year. Any increases in these areas will add to the budget gap and will need to be taken into consideration as well. Next, we will need to estimate revenues anticipated for each revenue source from 2020 to 2023. This includes local sources, state sources, and federal sources. We will begin the process of estimating our revenues by looking at our assessed values and our current millage rate of 39.691 to determine our starting revenue for local sources. As for state and federal revenues, we'll keep them at the same level as last year until further information becomes available relating to these two areas. We know that our millage rate drives our local revenues. This slide here represents the history of our district's millage rates from 2013-14 through 2021-2022. It is no secret that the taxpayers in this district have been burdened by increased tax rates every year except for 2020-2021, when the district was able to balance the budget without increasing taxes. There will be tough decisions ahead relating to property tax increases and what that will look like for the district as we move through the budgeting process. Our final step in the budgeting, in our budget map, is balancing the budget. This is the last major step in completing the budget roadmap for 22-23. Total plan expenditures must equal total plan revenues. If expenditures are greater, we must find ways to reduce these expenditures or revenues must be increased. Mr. Hanna?
Thank you, Ms. Diefendorfer. Next thing we'd like to do is briefly touch upon how the district has invested the CARES dollars and the ESSER's grant dollars. You heard earlier this evening through the presentation of the education team some of how those dollars have been invested. Here you can see that in our CARES Act ESSER's 1 grant, the grant total was $1,346,239. And so far we've spent $1,298,762, and we have a remaining balance of slightly under $50,000. What we used these funds for was for salary and benefits, tuition for our BVA, which was our previous online cyber experience, supplies, technology, and software. We did have to share a portion during this allocation with our non-pub, so that's included. Instructional staff development, communication services, nursing, and facilities-related costs. So that was what we called CARES, which was ESSER's 1. Next, we'll share what we have spent to date using the ESSER's 2 grant funds, the CRRSA. And at the end of this presentation, you will have a glossary of terms. The grant amount in ESSER's 2 was $6.9 million, specifically $6,915,330. To date, we have spent $2,401,996 and have a remaining balance of $4.5 million there. The various categories of expenses have included, again, salaries and benefits, supplies. There we did work around our summer school salaries, curriculum folks who were doing the work there to support us there, professional cleaning services. This is when we brought in the group called Transcend to help us do the high-level cleaning during the process. Tent rentals, you may recall that this board approved tents to support open air lunch and the ability for students to get outside, and the PPE that we purchased throughout the district, as well as Chromebook-related expenses and transportation services. We will provide more in terms of what we're going to do, but much of what you saw today in terms of the data team training, in terms of the half days, and things of that sort, the map testing, the Acadians, and all of those types of supports will be provided through the ESSER's grants as well. So we want to thank the team for that. We're also using ESSER's to support. We're looking to use ESSER's to support our cyber programming, additional teachers who are providing extended time for students, curriculum materials, and as I said earlier, the training that we're doing for data teams.
I have a question on that one, Mr. Hanna.
Sure.
So that $4 million and something balance remaining, that's not really remaining, that's allocated to something.
That's allocated, that's correct, that's correct. So we're going to, that's, in other words, it's spoken for.
It's spoken for.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. And here are the acronyms, because we know that in education we get into educationese, and so here you can see CARES is Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, ESSER's Elementary and Secondary Emergency Relief, and CRRSA, Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations. I thought we'd share that with the community because we know that we speak in acronyms and we want to make it easier for folks. Any questions?
Just a question to clarify for the public. When we go to utilize these funds for various projects that you've listed here, we have to be sure that that fits into a checklist of things that are covered under that act. We can't just use it where we would like to. We have to use it where they've dedicated that to us. That's correct.
So an example might be, Mr. Keach, using the funds to support the cyber academy at students who have opted, because of COVID, not to come in and to have that opportunity to be educated. Something that such as that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And I just want to add, it has to be related to COVID.
Correct.
And again, if I could just go one step further with clarification, because let's state the obvious. It cannot be used to balance the budget, and it cannot be used for debt service.
That is correct.
Ms. Diefendorfer, if I can draw our attention to slide 5, it shows the historical and projected enrollment data for Coatesville. Just as a point of clarity, can you explain to the public and to the board why we're still anticipating a downward trend looking at 2022, 2023, and so forth, even though we saw an increase this year? Just as a point of clarity, please.
Yeah, again, that's just related to, because each year before that, it has been a decrease. So when we do our calculation, it takes in each cohort and moves them from one grade down to the next. So in combination of our historical data, we've seen it decline, and using that number to project out continues that decline even with the increase in the enrollment for 120 this year.
Okay, thank you. So is it safe to assume that even though we're optimistic that enrollment will continue to increase year over year with the efforts that we're making, we're still planning worst case scenario but hoping for best case?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I don't have any other questions to my colleagues on committee, but I do have a comment that I'd like to make in lieu of the presentation that Mr. Pallai gave us earlier on the educational aspect, the efforts that you, Ms. Diefendorfer, are doing on the financial side. We have a lot of things working against the school district and public education in general, but specifically the school district over the last 3+ years. And I think what we're starting to see is the fruit of that labor, from our outstanding teaching staff to our administrative staff to our building principals, and the efforts that everyone's putting in. We lost 21% of our enrollment from 2015-16 to 2020-2021. So over 6 years, we lost 21% of our enrollment. And in a matter of, let's call it 2 years, I guess we can count COVID year as a year of education, right, Mr. Hanna? It still counts. We've been able to increase enrollment by over 120 students as of October 1st. So I think as we hear the negative things that are kind of working against us, it's important to make sure that we highlight the efforts from everybody from the top down in this school district to help to try and fight the good fight and the uphill battle. For Mr. Pallai, what you provided us this morning, earlier in the presentation, an education committee, to Ms. Diefendorfer and the amazing staff that we have. I applaud you guys for the work that you're doing. Continue the good work, and we'll keep doing what we can do to help.
So the comment I was going to make, kind of following on that, Mr. Freeman, is I was impressed with the thoughtfulness that went with how are we going to spend this money. It was thoughtful. A lot of people were engaged in the decision-making, and there were heady debates frequently and continuing now. I think I'm optimistic like you are. I am so optimistic because I know our teachers can do it, given the tools that they need and the support that they need. We've risen this way before, and we're going to do it again. So we're grateful for the money. Thank you. And the definitions.
It's, Ms. Mills, it's kind of the glass half full versus glass half empty approach, right?
Yeah.
So many people want to look at the glass as half empty, but the reality is that glass is half full.
Yep.
Right. Any other comments from my colleagues? All right, so we'll move on to agenda item letter A. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the financial statements, bills, payables list as presented. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Letter B, Coatesville Youth Initiative Outreach and Referral Services Contract. Recommended action pending legal review that the Board of School Directors approve a contract with Coatesville Youth Initiative, also known as CYI, to provide outreach and referral services to students and families identified as homeless by the district at a cost not to exceed $94,500 from December 1st, 2021 through September 30th, 2024. The district plans to allocate a portion of American Rescue Plan elementary and secondary school emergency relief, homeless children and youth ARP HCY 2 funds toward the partnership with CYI as presented. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Letter C, Powerschool Application Tracker Renewal. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the license and subscription fees from Powerschool for renewal of its applicant tracking recruiting web-based program at a total cost of $5,360.39 for a one-year term from October 28, 2021 through October 27, 2022. The district uses the program to recruit candidates for open positions as presented. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Letter D, Tyler Technologies Software as a Service Agreement. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the Software as a Service Agreement with Tyler Technologies for Versatrans routing and planning mitigation to Traversa's advanced routing upgrade for a 3-year term, including implementation, training, and project management for a total one-time fee of $27,691 this year, and an annual recurring fee of $13,315.05 in year 2, and $13,980.80 in year 3 as presented. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments? I'll ask Mr. Hanna if you can shed some light on this. In recent years, we've made a couple pivots in our transportation department, so if you could shed some light on that, please.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to do so. I will share with you that we're pleased to continue the partnership we have with CRAF in terms of our routing and our vehicles. As CRAF has stepped into the role, they have identified areas that we need support in. Specifically, the map system we use is actually very outdated, and I think this would be 6 updates behind. I think it's what it is, or has not been updated in 6 years. Is it correct? I'm sorry. Apologies for that. And so what that means is that as we're routing, where we think there's a stop, it actually might be elsewhere. And so we want to be sure that we have much more updated information. This will certainly help that process. It will also allow our system to be web-based, so that it's a much easier fix. We have fewer hiccups and glitches and things of this sort. So we're pleased about that. And I do want to acknowledge Lori Diefendorfer, to whom transportation reports, and she's really been on top of this since the shift over to our folks at Kraft, and Allison Slode from the Kraft Company, who's been supporting this work. This is also, we're going to get into conversations down the line with GPS on buses, which will help us in terms of providing supports for our families to have a sense of where buses are as we move forward. So there's a lot going on in terms of how we're trying to ameliorate the issues that we've learned through transportation. Laura, is there anything you'd like to add? Please?
I think you covered it all, Mr. Hanna. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hanna. Given the fact that in recent years we had made a purchase for relating to TransFinder without implementation, I would ask that just moving forward, we just get continuous updates on the implementation of this program. Obviously, there's going to be some pretty substantial benefits. You mentioned GPS later down the road as part of a discussion. But just to make sure that we're being diligent, if we could just get some continued updates, that'd be
Absolutely.
great.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Letter E, cash approval for student activities account. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the account registration of the student activities account for the Coatesville Robotics Club at the Coatesville Area Senior High School for the 2021-2022 school year as presented. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Letter F, adoption of Chromebook one-to-one handbook. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the adoption of the revised Chromebook one-to-one handbook for the 2021-2022 school year as presented. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments? We'll ask Mr. Hanna, just as a follow-up. I don't see Mr. Sobczak.
Mr. Sobczak, can you come down, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sobczak. Appreciate it. I just had a follow-up question. One of the items that we had the last time this came through committee, one of the questions we had asked was about consideration of teachers, administrators, and input in the handbook. Was there the consultation of those individuals at those varying levels, I should say, within the school district to provide input on this handbook?
Yes, We had the curriculum team work with us. We had script team, which included teachers. I had reached out to Audra, and also I reached out to members of the technology task force for input.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Mr. Subject. Sorry I made you walk so far just to answer one question. That's the only question I have, but before you leave, let's just make sure that nobody else does. Does anybody else have any other questions for Mr. Subject? No. All right, thank you. All right, we'll call for a vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Letter G, Airport Village Shopping Center Tax Assessment Appeal. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the stipulation for settlement regarding a tax assessment appeal involving Airport Village LP, owner of Airport Village Shopping Center located at 100 Airport Road in Valley Township as presented. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Letter H, 215 South Mount Airy Road Partners LP, tax assessment appeal. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the stipulation for settlement regarding a tax assessment appeal involving the 255 South Mount Airy Road Partners LP, owner of a property located at 243, 253, and 255 South Mount Airy Road in Valley Township as presented. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Letter I, Optimally Incorporated, Proposed Master Services Agreement. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the proposed master services agreement with Optimally Incorporated to assist the district in securing lower rates on particular operating expenses selected by the district for a period of 3 years from the effective date until the termination date of all active schedules. Optimally would receive 50% of the savings secured for the district by Optimally from each vendor for a period of 3 years from the date in which the first invoice for savings is sent to the district as presented. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments? If I could start off, Ms. Diefendorfer, can you elaborate a bit more on what our expectations are for Optimally in this agreement is?
So what they'll do for us is they'll look at our, all of our expenses, the various vendors that we use, and they will see if they can determine any potential savings for us. So they'll do a deep dive into our vendor payments and just see if they can find us some savings, and they'll go out and negotiate these costs for us. Once we have the agreement, we are not tied into it. So if we determine that, okay, it's not saving us as much as we would like to see, we do not have to lock ourselves into it. So it's just kind of giving them the go-ahead to review our information to see if there's, potential savings for the district as we're trying to find savings wherever we can for our budget. This allows them to do that for us.
Okay, thank you. And as a follow-up question, if I may, and this Optimally will work in partnership with our purchasing agent.
That's correct. So our purchasing agent kind of keeps us on track to make sure we're, following all the requirements for going out for bids or having to get quotes on, depending on the threshold. So they will work in conjunction with them to make sure we're in line with everything.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Finkbonner, yes. I know it's not my committee, but question is there another resource or pathway to getting this service without expenses? So like, does the IU have something that, or a service that we can use that is free of charge to the district, or?
I mean, not that I'm aware of. I mean, this is kind of how they get their payment, is through whatever savings they get the district, they receive a percentage of that savings. Again, it's just giving us the go-ahead to have them look at our information. It doesn't tie us into it. If we decide, thank you for doing the work, it's not for our district, we can move on from them and no harm.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mrs. Diefendorfer. Appreciate it.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Letter J, repository sale. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the repository sale as recommended by the Chester County Tax Claim Bureau of the following parcel as presented. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Letter K, Edward A. Pristernick, addendum to existing tax collector agreement. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the addendum to the existing tax collector compensation selection agreement with Edward A. Pristernick elected tax collector for West Brandywine Township, providing for the terms and conditions stated in this agreement to remain in full force and effect through the end of Mr. Prussernick's term or December 31st, 2021, whichever is earlier as presented. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Letter L, Lori Diefendorfer, out-of-district training request. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve a request from Lori Diefendorfer, Director of Business Administration, to attend Pennsylvania Association of School Business Officials, also known as PASBO, Annual Conference in Hershey, Pennsylvania, on March 8th through 11th, 2021, at an estimated cost of $920 as presented. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Letter M, Holy Ghost Ukrainian Orthodox Church school supplies donation. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the donation from Holy Ghost Ukrainian Orthodox Church of back-to-school supplies valued at $1,388 to Kings Highway Elementary School as presented. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Just say thank you for the donation. Greatly appreciated. We'll call for a vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Letter N, Brandywine Valley Active Aging Cleaning Supplies donation. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the donation from Brandywine Valley Active Aging, also known as BVAA, of cleaning supplies, including 15 cases and 24 gallons of hand sanitizer to the Facilities Department as presented. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Just a thank you for the donation. It's greatly appreciated. I'm sure it'll be used. We'll call for a vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Letter O, Military Order of the Purple Heart, Valley Forge, Chapter 1777, Air Force Junior ROTC donation. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the donation from the Military Order of the Purple Heart, Valley Forge, Chapter 1777, of $500 to the Air Force Junior ROTC to support expansion of the marksmanship program and acquire additional equipment as presented. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Letter P, Vanguard Charitable school supplies donation. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the donation from Vanguard Charitable of school supplies valued at approximately $225 to the district as presented. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Letter Q, Xander Nicolazzo, donation of notebooks. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the donation from Xander Nicolazzo of 30 notebooks for Callan Elementary School students as presented. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Thank you for the donation. Greatly appreciated. And we'll call for a vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Letter R, Key of Coatesville, donation of coats. Recommended action if the Board of School Directors approve the donation from Key of Coatesville of warm coats in the amount of $500 for Callan Elementary School students as presented. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Thank you for the donation. And we'll call for a vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Letter S, Lear and K Photography, donation of yearbook team photos. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the donation from Lear and K Photography of middle school team photos to North Brandywine Middle School's yearbook as presented. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Just in general, for all the donations, when we go through this before we come here during another meeting, when we talk about and prepare for you, it is wonderful to see the kindness from the people of the community towards our school district. Every single one of you that have groups and individuals that have donated, thank you, thank you, thank you.
That's an interesting point, Ms. Mills. I've taken upon myself to watch some other neighboring school districts' school board presentations.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ask me why, I really don't have that much downtime. But you don't see the type of donations that this school district here gets in some of our neighboring school districts. So it just speaks to the value of investment from our community within our school district, and that our community does want this district to succeed. So ditto to what you said. And we'll call for a vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Letter T, Educational Consultant Services, Michelle Kelly. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve an agreement for Michelle Kelly to provide educational consultant services to the district through the existing agreement of services with CRES at a cost of $68.75 per hour as presented. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Letter U, creation of Executive Administrative Assistant to the Director of Pupil Services. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the creation of an Executive Administrative Assistant to the Director of Pupil Services. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Dismissal Resolution 14394. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the dismissal resolution for employee 14394 as presented. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
And we'll call for a vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Letter W, Dismissal Resolution 14238. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the dismissal resolution for employee 14238 as presented. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Call for a vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Letter X, Human Resources Report. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the resignations, appointments, new positions, leave of absence, transfers, change of status, and corrections as presented. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. We have no informational items. Are there any old business? Any new business? And public comment. Ms. Shannon Bailey.
Good evening. I'm looking at this document from the last board meeting. It's entitled Coatesville Area School District 2022-2023 per weighted pupil allocations. The second document has weighted enrollment and budget allocations by school. So I'm not a numbers person. I hate math. I struggle with it. But I would like to know how this document is or is not connected to the budget presentation that was made this evening. And I'm not expecting that to be done now, but I'd like to know whether or not this is something that you all match together, or you just, putting our information out to the public. Because this is confusing to me, especially when we hear that we expect the enrollment to continue to go downward. So just a better understanding of what these documents are and how they relate to the presentation tonight would be my ask.
Thanks, Ms. Shannon Bailey. That's a great question. The first thing in enrollment, we're planning on the enrollment to decrease. Ms. Diefendorfer, I believe, alluded to that. We're projecting enrollment to decrease based off of historical trends. However, the hope is that our enrollment goes up. To your second question relating to how those two documents tie in, Mr. Hanna, I'll ask if you can arrange. Okay, Ms. Diefendorfer, you ready? Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
so the document that you saw from the last board meeting, that does tie into our budget. What we do is take our enrollment numbers per school, and then we allocate based on the number of kids at the school to determine the budget allocation for each school. So the total there you'll see play into our budget. That allows our principals and our department heads to determine how they are going to allocate the funds allocated to them based on the different categories in their budget.
Okay, so on one of the documents, special education funding is missing. Is there a particular reason for that?
No, it's all part of the total allocation that they receive.
Okay. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
The next question I have is about the $94,000 contract with Coatesville Youth Initiative. I think the public would benefit by knowing, I know I would, being a taxpayer for 34 odd years, how much of our taxpayer dollars is going to go to that contract. It is $94,500. And again, I don't have to know this information right now, but it would be helpful to know that information. It would also be helpful to know how is it that you're going to track the success of this success or lack thereof? I mean, it does go to 2024. You know, what's the success rate for a program like this? And finally, are you all connected with the Education for Children and Youth Experiencing Homelessness program, which it seemed to be a industry leader in dealing with homelessness among children?
So it is a grant that we've received, so it's not going to be direct taxpayer dollars from Coatesville, so that's a grant. It's under the leadership of, under Ms. George's office, as well as specifically under the leadership of Darian Stewart. Smith, Darian Smith, so he's engaged there. And we will be partnering with CYI, the Coatesville Youth Initiative. It is an entity we work very closely with who support our students, and we will be supporting that entity and other types of best practices to ensure that our homeless students receive the supports and services they need.
Okay, so the key word for me is a grant, because a grant is not indicated in the description, so that's why I wanted to just get a little bit further
Perfectly
information. Thank you very much.
Our pleasure.
Our next meeting is Tuesday, January 11th, 2022, and we'll adjourn the Finance Committee at 7:11 p.m.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the Operations Committee to order at 7:11 p.m. First, approval of the minutes of the November 9th Operations Committee agenda. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Call for the vote, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Abstain, sorry. So first, agenda item A, Roofing Resources, Inc., 2022 roof replacement design. Recommend a motion that the Board of School Directors approve the motion for Roofing Resources, Inc. to perform Phase 2 design/bid services for the replacement of 5 roof areas at Coatesville Area Senior High School at a fee of 6% of the actual construction costs, inclusive to all expenses as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions from my committee colleagues or any other board member colleagues? Hearing none, let's call for the vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Agenda item B, PVBJ Inc., Rainbow Elementary School Library/Media Center HVAC. That the Board of, recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the proposal from PVBJ Inc., Mechanical Construction, to provide a replacement new 10-ton Florida heat pump unit for the Rainbow Elementary School Library/Media Center at a cost of $24,610 as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion.
Any questions, comments, or discussion? Seeing none, let's call for the vote.
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. And letter C, 5 Star Inc., credit change order for accessibility and toilet room renovations. Recommend a motion that the Board of School Directors approve a credit change order from 5 Star Inc., Mechanical Construction, for the accessibility and toilet room renovations project at Callan and East Fallowfield Elementary Schools. A credit of $5,125 will be deducted from the mechanical constructions. Sorry. Allowance remaining balance as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Call for the, any questions? Hearing none, call for the vote.
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. Any, seeing no informational items, any old business? Any new business? No public comment? All right. Next meeting is Tuesday, January 11th, 2022. And I will call for adjournment. Adjourn the Operations Committee meeting in record time of 7:15.
I'd like to call to order the Policy Committee meeting at 7:15. Move on to approval of the minutes. Recommended action, approval of the October 12th, 2021 Policy Committee meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
Abstain.
Yes. Moving on to Agenda 4 for agenda items. Policy 111, Lesson Plans. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the Policy 111 Lesson Plans as presented, and if approved, to move forward, that the agenda item be placed on the agenda of the November 9th, 2021 Special Board Meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Is there any questions, comments? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Policy 137, Home Education Program. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve Policy 137, Home Education Programs as presented, and if approved, to move forward, that the agenda item be placed on the agenda of the November 9th, 2021 Special Board Meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions, comments? Seeing none, call for the vote.
Yes.
Yes. Policy 137.1, Extracurricular Participation by Home Education Students. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors review Policy 137.1, Extracurricular Participation by Home Education Students as presented, and if approved, to move forward to complete the review process, that the agenda item be placed on the agenda of November 9th, 2021 Special Board Meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any comments, questions? Seeing none, can we call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Letter D, Policy 138, Language Instruction Education Program for English Learners. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors review Policy 138, Language Instruction Educational Program for English Learners as presented, and if approved, to move forward to be placed on the agenda of the November 9th, 2021 Special Board Meeting. I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Questions, concerns? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Letter E, Policy 142, Migrant Students. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors review Policy 142, Migrant Students as presented, and if approved, to move forward to complete the review process, that the agenda item be placed on the agenda of the November 9th, 2021 Special Board Meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Questions? Call for the vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Letter F, Policy 200, Enrollment of Students. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors review Policy 200, Enrollment of Students as presented, and if approved, to move forward to complete the review process, that the agenda item be placed on the agenda of the November 9th, 2021 Special Board Meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions? Call for the vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. G, Policy 226, Searches. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors review Policy 226, Searches as presented, and if approved, to move forward to be placed on the agenda of November 9th, 2021 Special Board Meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions, concerns? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Letter H, Policy 233, Suspension and Expulsion. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve Policy 233, Suspension and Expulsion, as presented, and if approved, to move forward to complete the review process, that the agenda item be placed on the agenda of the November 9th, 2021 Special Board Meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions, concerns? Let's call for the vote.
Yes.
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 Letter I, Policy 816, Social Media. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors review Policy 816, Social Media as presented, and if approved, to move forward to complete the review process that the agenda item be placed on the agenda of the November 9th, 2021 special board meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions, concerns? Call for the vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Letter J, Policy 717, Cellular Telephones. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors review Policy 717, Cellular Telephones as presented, and if approved, to move forward to complete the review process, that the agenda item be placed on the agenda of the November 9th, 2021 special board meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or concerns?
If I might, this is a number of policies we've seen this evening that we've just not had, and so we're just making sure that we have them. Particularly 717s of import, because historically, this district, we were able to, as administrators, text and sort of communicate in a much more efficient manner with, as administrators. This allows us to do that once again, so I want to thank the board for its work, to allow this to happen. This will enable us to, again, communicate more efficiently in whether it be an emergency or whatever it is that we might need to do. So we appreciate the opportunity for this. I do want to be very clear that there will be a training component with this and with the social media policy, where we will have legal come in and work with our administrators and folks with regard to, to what the import of the social media policy and the cellular telephone policies would be. So I just wanted to make sure the public was aware of that. Thank you, Ms. Harlan.
Thank you, Mr. Hanna. Call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. Number 5 is informational items. These are all of the ARs that go with all of the policies. Number 6 is old business. Translation of policies, ARs into second language.
So if I might speak to that, this is an old business where we are, again, looking for bids to see the extent to which we can, at this point or in a future point in time, translate the policies into Spanish. And so we're looking for costs there, and we'll say from a budget perspective if that's something we're able to do, but we want to be sure that we're able to do that in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Hanna. Any new business? There's no public comment. Our next meeting will be Tuesday. I don't think that's right. I don't think it's January. Is it January 11th, 2022? No.
Actually, so it would have been, however, we have put an ad in the Daily Local so that on December 7th, right, we will have a policy committee, public policy committee meeting. That will be the only committee that meets that evening. Just given the number of policies that we have in the queue, we want to be sure that we lose sight of that. So thank you for catching that, Ms. Harlan, and it's something that we have put an ad in the paper so that we do this legally and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll call for an adjournment at 7:23 p.m.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Coatesville Area School District Special School Board meeting for Tuesday, November 9th, 2021. Agenda item 1B, purpose of the meeting. The purpose of the meeting is to approve the bills payable and any other matters that may come before the board. Agenda item 1C, reading of the mission statement. The mission of the Coatesville Area School District, rich in diversity and committed to excellence, is to create innovative educational experiences which are funded by the taxpayers, supported by the community, delivered by dedicated teachers and administrators to ensure all students will become responsible, contributing global citizens. Agenda item 1D, advisement. By notice of the President, board members are advised that all votes shall be regarded as roll call votes. The minutes should also note that public notice was given for this meeting in accordance with Act 93 of 1998, Section 1. School board meetings shall proceed in accordance with school board policy. Madam Secretary, would you call the roll, please?
Rob Fisher.
Here.
Tom Keach.
Here.
Harvell Brown.
Here.
Josh Krantz.
Here.
Andrew Finkbeiner.
Here.
Becky Harlan.
Here.
Mary Ann Harris.
Madam Secretary, Ms. Harris has asked to be excused from this evening's meeting.
Thank you. Amelia Mills.
Here.
Brandon Roan.
Present.
Thank you.
At this time, if we could have a moment of silence, and then we will stand and salute the flag. You can all stand, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. To my colleagues, at this time, are there any additions, deletions, or modifications to this evening's agenda? Ms. Mills, this would be the appropriate time to read into our special school board meeting agenda. Agenda item 4B from your committee meeting, Music Theater International Contract for Scott Sixth Grade Center. So I would ask that you would read that in as a motion. We'll get you a second, and then we'll ask Ms. Diefendorfer to take the vote on that.
Motion for adding in to tonight's meeting.
Yeah, if you could just read the motion as it reads in your Education Committee, agenda item 4B.
The recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the contract with Music Theater International for the Scott Sixth Grade Center Spring Musical in the amount of $735 as presented.
So we have a motion on the floor that will need a second, please.
Second.
And Madam Secretary, would you call the roll for the addition in that? And we will add that on the agenda under Education Committee, and that would be agenda item F.
Tom Keach,
Yes.
Brandon Roan,
Yes.
Andrew Finkbonner,
Yes.
Rob Fisher,
Yes.
Becky Harlan,
Yes.
Josh Kranz,
Yes.
Amelia Mills,
Yes.
Harvell Brown.
Yes.
Motion approved.
At this time, are there any other additions, deletions, or modifications to the agenda? Seeing none, we will move on to public comment. Agenda item 3A, public comment. The board has requested all persons making comments on agenda items to list their name, address, telephone number, and motion items on the sheet provided. There is a 3-minute limit per person. The board does not take action or discuss items not appearing on the agenda. The board values public comments and wishes to convey that although board members cannot discuss items that are not on the agenda, they listen carefully and appreciate and value input from the public. Ms. Lori Shannon Bailey.
Good evening. I just want to spend a few minutes talking about the finances and the presentation tonight. I think one of my biggest concerns is if we think about the $4.5 million that all of a sudden came on the radar for charter schools, how do we avoid that? How do we make sure we are not at this juncture next school year? And then I'm also concerned, and my neighbors and colleagues are talking about the fact that we are paying 3 administrators. And do we really need to be paying 3 administrators? I love this district. I'm looking forward to continuing to support it, but the finances concern me greatly. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shannon Bailey. Moving on to agenda item 4, motion items for approval. Recommended motion that the Board of School Directors approve the consent agenda items. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Committee meeting action items considered routine. We'll take the vote at the end, obviously, Madam Secretary. Committee meeting action items considered routine will be enacted under one motion unless removed to separate action upon board request. The purpose of the consolidated motion is to expedite governing board action on all consent items which are not held for discussion. Items that have been held for discussion by the governing board will be enacted upon at the time the item is discussed. So for this evening, to be removed from consent agenda, under Finance Committee, number 5, I would like to remove agenda items A, D, G, H, I, J, and K. Under Education Committee, number 6, I would like to remove agenda items C, D, E, and the recently added agenda item F. Under Policy, number 8, I would like to remove agenda item B. Are there any other items for removal from consent agenda this evening? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, now we will call for the vote, please.
Becky Harlan,
Yes.
Arvell Brown,
Yes.
Amelia Mills,
Yes.
Rob Fisher,
Yes.
Andrew Finkbeiner,
Yes.
Tom Keach,
Yes.
Brandon Roan,
Affirmative.
Josh Kranz.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Chairman Finkbeiner, we will go back to Finance Committee. If you will go back and reread those motions for vote, please.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. First up is letter A, financial statements. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the financial statements, bills, payables list as presented. Do we have a motion?
Motion?
Second.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote.
Josh Kranz,
Yes.
Rob Fisher,
Yes.
Arvell Brown,
Yes.
Andrew Finkbeiner,
Yes.
Brandon Roan,
Yes.
Amelia Mills,
Yes.
Becky Harlan,
Yes.
Tom Keach.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next up is letter D, adoption of Chromebook one-to-one handbook. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the adoption of the revised Chromebook one-to-one handbook for the 2021-2022 school year as presented. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Mr. Finkbeiner, just a comment, please. I pulled this off a consent agenda since we've had previous considerable conversation, and I thought for the record it would be best if we have a roll call vote.
Fair enough. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote.
Andrew Finkbeiner,
Yes.
Brandon Roan,
Yes.
Arvell Brown,
Yes.
Becky Harlan,
Yes.
Josh Kranz,
Yes.
Rob Fisher,
Yes.
Tom Keach,
Yes.
Amelia Mills.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Letter G, Educational Consultant Services, Michelle Kelly. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve an agreement for Michelle Kelly to provide educational consultant services to the district through the existing agreement of services with CRES at a cost of $68.75 per hour as presented. Do we have a motion?
Motion?
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Mr. Finkbeiner, I pulled this one off for a point of clarification. For the public's knowledge, this is not an additional position. We currently have an open position that was vacated by a resignation. So this is to replace that person. And it is my understanding not to exceed what is already in the budget, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you, Mr. Finkbeiner.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote.
Becky Harlan,
Yes.
Amelia Mills,
Yes.
Andrew Finkbeiner,
Yes.
Arvell Brown,
Yes.
Tom Keach,
Yes.
Josh Kranz,
Yes.
Rob Fisher,
Yes.
Brandon Roan.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Letter H, creation of executive administrative assistant to Director of Pupil Services. The recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the creation of an executive administrative assistant to the Director of Pupil Services. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Again, Mr. Finkbeiner, I pulled this for a point of clarification for the public. Once again, this is an open position that was created by a resignation, and we are going to do some realignment of that department, and again, at no additional cost to the budget, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you, Mr. Finkbeiner.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. I think it's also worth noting that The Director of Pupil Services position is also an amalgamated position that includes special education services as well. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote.
Brandon Roan,
Yes.
Becky Harlan,
Yes.
Rob Fisher,
Yes.
Andrew Finkbonner,
Yes.
Tom Keach,
Yes.
Harvell Brown,
Yes.
Amelia Mills,
Yes.
Josh Kranz.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Letter I, Dismissal Resolution 14394. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the dismissal resolution for employee 14394 as presented. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Again, Mr. Finkbonner, I just pulled this for a roll call vote for the record.
Understood. We'll call for a vote.
Amelia Mills,
Yes.
Josh Kranz,
Yes.
Becky Harlan,
Yes.
Tom Keach,
Yes.
Rob Fisher,
Yes.
Brandon Roan,
Yes.
Andrew Finkbonner,
Yes.
Harvell Brown.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Letter J, Dismissal Resolution 14238. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the dismissal resolution for employee 14238 as presented. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Again, Mr. Finkbonner, for the record.
Thank you. We'll call for a vote.
Amelia Mills,
Yes.
Tom Keach,
Yes.
Josh Kranz,
Yes.
Rob Fisher,
Yes.
Andrew Finkbonner,
Yes.
Becky Harlan,
Yes.
Harvell Brown,
Yes.
Brandon Roan.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Letter K, Human Resources Report. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the resignations, appointments, new positions, leave of absence, transfers, change of status, and corrections as presented. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote.
Harvell Brown,
Yes.
Andrew Finkbonner,
Yes.
Amelia Mills,
Yes.
Tom Keach,
Yes.
Brandon Roan,
Yes.
Becky Harlan,
Yes.
Josh Kranz,
Yes.
Rob Fisher.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Ms. Mills, we will move on to those items removed under Education Committee.
Item C, Proposed Adjudication, Student 1001199. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the proposed student adjudication for student 1001199. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Call for the vote.
Tom Keach,
Yes.
Brandon Roan,
Yes.
Andrew Finkbonner,
Yes.
Rob Fisher,
Yes.
Becky Harlan,
Yes.
Josh Kranz,
Yes.
Harvell Brown,
Yes.
Amelia Mills.
Yes.
Motion approved.
D, Proposed Adjudication, Student 50001113. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the proposed student adjudication for student 50001113. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Call for the vote.
Becky Harlan,
Yes.
Harvell Brown,
Yes.
Amelia Mills,
Yes.
Josh Kranz,
Yes.
Rob Fisher,
Yes.
Andrew Finkbonner,
Yes.
Tom Keach,
Yes.
Brandon Roan.
Yes.
Motion approved.
E, Proposed Adjudication, Student 1008783 and 1008787. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the proposed student adjudication for students 1008783 and 1008787. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Call for the vote.
Becky Harlan,
Yes.
Harvell Brown,
Yes.
Josh Kranz,
Yes.
Rob Fisher,
Yes.
Andrew Finkbonner,
Yes.
Tom Keach,
Yes.
Brandon Roan,
Yes.
Amelia Mills.
Yes.
Motion approved.
F, Music Theater International Contract, Scott. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the contract with Music Theater International for the Scott 6th grade Center Spring Musical in the amount of $735 as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Call for the vote.
Josh Kranz,
Yes.
Rob Fisher,
Yes.
Tom Keach,
Yes.
Andrew Finkbonner,
Yes.
Brandon Roan,
Yes.
Harvell Brown,
Yes.
Amelia Mills,
Yes.
Becky Harlan. Yes. Motion approved.
Mrs. Harlan, we'll move on to Agenda Item 8, Policy Committee, the one agenda item removed from Consent Agenda B.
Sure. Policy 137, Home Education Program. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve Policy 137, Home Education Programs as presented, and if approved, to move forward to that the agenda item be placed on the agenda of the November 9th, 2021 special board meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Questions?
Ms. Harlan, I removed this from consent agenda again because we've had considerable discussion over this policy. And for the record, for the roll call vote, I thought it was necessary to do so.
Thank you. Any questions? Nothing? Okay, we can call for the vote.
Andrew Finkbonner,
Yes.
Amelia Mills,
Yes.
Harvell Brown,
Yes.
Becky Harlan,
Yes.
Josh Kranz,
Yes.
Rob Fisher,
Yes.
Tom Keach,
Yes.
Brandon Roan.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Moving on to Agenda Item 9A, Public Comment. The Board has requested all persons making comments of public concern to lift their name, address, telephone number, and topics on the sheet provided. There is a 3-minute time limit per person.
There's none.
No public comment. Thank you. Informational items. I do have one informational item this evening. And before I begin, bear with me because you're going to think here goes Fisher again telling a sports story. Although this is somewhat related, I think you'll find by the end of this that there's a considerable different twist to this. For those of you like myself who, whenever possible, spend your Sunday afternoons watching NFL football, there is a pregame show on Fox called the NFL Fox pregame show. In having an opportunity to sit down and view that on Sunday, to my surprise, on the screen appeared Midshipman First Class John Clifford III from the United States Navy Academy. John Clifford is a graduate of the class of 2012 here at Coatesville High School. Or excuse me, 2018. I did have it right on my sheet. I read it wrong. 2018. I'm so John's thinking, boy, it took me a long time to get through the Naval Academy, right? But anyway, John was a student athlete here amongst many other things. Obviously a National Honor Society graduate and a student athlete in the true sense of the word. He was a member of our varsity football team and our varsity basketball team. On Sunday, in honor of the upcoming Veterans Day, and why I thought it was important to mention this tonight, the Fox pregame show did a special on sponsoring family programs at the Naval Academy. All of you are probably aware that when you enter one of the service academies, life is pretty strict. So from time to time, the students are allowed to visit an adopted family, and John was fortunate enough to be the midshipman who was selected on this segment. Just a little background on John. He is majoring in control systems and robotics engineering. He will be commissioned, which means he will graduate in May of 2022. During his service to the Academy, he has served on the USS San Diego. He has served at the Naval Air Station in Jacksonville. He has been an honor flight welcomer at our U.S. Capitol, Washington, D.C. And when he does graduate, John has a couple preferences that he would like to pursue his military career in. The first is he would like to be a Navy pilot. If that doesn't work, secondly, he would like to be a Navy submariner. His official assignment will come next week, November 18th. So why do I mention John this evening? He is certainly not a Lone Ranger. We have many graduates of Coatesville High School who have gone on to serve our country. Please be mindful of that this coming Thursday, Veterans Day. Again, just had the opportunity to see this segment and highlight John. He is one of many of our graduates who have gone on to serve their country. In addition to that, one of my colleagues on the board, Harville Brown, his son, DeAndre Brown, will graduate on November 23rd from the U.S. Army, Fort Gordon, Georgia. So, Mr. Brown, congratulations. And although there's not many of us here, let's give a round of applause for all of our Thank you for indulging me in that. Are there any other informational items this evening?
I do have one informational item. I don't think I can top that one though, Mr. Fisher. This is a feel-good story that kind of hits home, and it's also sports related. It was brought to my attention earlier this week that at senior night, our high school football team started a new tradition. And that new tradition was for them to select a teacher that has made a profound impact on them, not only academically, but in a lot of different ways, whether in school or out of school. We hear the things that are said about Coatesville time and time again, but every single student that goes through Coatesville Area School District is incredibly important and are touched in many, many ways in a positive manner, both academically and from a support perspective by our staff. And for those gentlemen on the football team to do what they did to honor those teachers, it just speaks to the amazing, amazing things that happened in this school district. And I was proud to be associated with Coatesville Area School District and Coatesville community when I heard that. So that's what I wanted to share, Mr. Fisher. For anyone that wasn't aware that took place, it was an incredible thing.
And thank you so much, Mr. Finkbonner, for bringing that to everyone's attention. And a special kudos, it's my understanding that the Football Booster Club came up with that idea. And as you mentioned earlier this evening, in another vein, you know, when you look at other school districts, you don't see some things, right? And I've been around sports my whole life, and a lot of senior nights as a teacher and as an administrator, and to honor our teachers was incredibly special. And also a thank you to Mr. Changer, who I know arranged as best he could for as many of those teachers to be there in person Friday night. And that was really, really cool to see. So thank you for bringing that up. I do have one other informational item. As you well know, last week was Election Day. We had some open seats that were filled through the election process, and unfortunately, two of those winning candidates have notified the board that they will be unable to fulfill their term. So with that being said, the board has received a letter stating such from both candidates, one from Region 1 and one from Region 2. So we will move forward with the process of replacing those candidates with a board selection process like we've done so many times before. So if there is anyone who is interested in serving, we have 2 seats open in Region 1. which is the city of Coatesville and Valley Township. One is a 2-year term, the other is a 4-year term. We also have an opening in Region 2, and that is a 4-year term, and unfortunately that will replace Mr. Keach, who has decided to move on. But we'll talk about that in another time. So, reason for me bringing this forth is we need some qualified candidates, folks. So if you know some people that ran as write-in candidates and showed some interest as a write-in candidate, please let them know that those seats are reopened. And I believe, Ms. Diefendorfer, we are going to post those positions officially tomorrow morning, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, and we wanted to wait to make this announcement tonight. And again, we have officially received notice in writing from those 2 candidates, so we'll begin the process yet again. So if you know anyone that wants to help us continue to grow as a school district, now is the time.
Mr. Fisher, if I could add to that, I believe it was about 1.5 years ago that a couple of us partook in an interview with Mr. Hanna that explained what it takes to be a board member. Could we have that video posted on social media for anybody that's interested in filling those vacancies that aren't quite sure what a school board member does that may help provide some clarity? Is that something we can do?
We'll go.
Not that I
check
want my
Cohort to put
face
it
on
back
social media,
Right.
but, you know, wasn't the most flattering time.
Starring Mr. Finkbottom.
But it might be helpful for anybody that's interested,
Agreed.
that has some questions or concerns, to maybe get some answers.
Yep.
And that's an excellent point. Just don't scare them away, Mr. Finkbottom. Any other informational items this evening?
Mr. Fisher, if I might, a question had come up a couple meetings back, and we had not talked about it. But tomorrow's Advocacy Day in Harrisburg, and I will have the opportunity to meet with a series of legislators to talk about the plight of Coatesville area schools, to talk about a couple of things. One, the great work we're doing through our comprehensive plan, the issues of financing that are important, and as well as the great work that we're doing here in the district. So I look forward to coming back and reporting to you all with regard to what that looks like. We'll be looking at our local legislators. We'll be looking at legislators from across the state. And I just wanted to let the public know that we will be doing that in person tomorrow and with more frequency.
Thank you, Mr. Hannon, and thank you for making that much needed visit to our state's capital. Any other informational items? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion for adjournment.
Motion.
Second.